89 Kindness from black cashier to elderly woman. What happens will shock you forever. In a rundown grocery store on the edge of town, an ordinary transaction set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. The bell above the door jingled like a warning, announcing the entrance of an elderly woman. Sidestepping the puddle of spilled soda, she shuffled to the register, her back hunched, and her eyes clouded by age. Just behind her stood a tall, young black cashier, with a piercing gaze that had seen too much but still managed a warm smile. Little did they know, this would be a moment stamped into the memory of everyone around them. As he scanned her frail items: canned soup, a loaf of bread, and a single avocado. The atmosphere thickened. Whispers spread through the store, curling around offended shoppers. "Look at that poor old lady," one person said. Others stood, heart pounding, caught between sympathy and indignation. The young man met her gaze, reading the worry etched in her wrinkle-lined face like an open book. Then, in a sudden twist, just as the cashier reasoned with himself about giving her a discount, he noticed her trembling hands pull out a worn-up wallet, coins jingling in a desperate plea. Unrushed, he paused, weighing the gravity of 89 cents against a small spark of human kindness emanating from within. The suffocating tension wrapped around the store as if time itself held its breath. Suddenly, silence fell. All eyes landed on the two. The cashier looked toward the onlookers, daring them to judge him. "Your total is 4.11, ma'am," he said, but there was something so much deeper in that voice, something that beckoned at the heart and made the cold air tremble. The crowd leaned closer, anticipating what would come next. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the characters stood frozen, the emotions escalated. Would he just let her leave, or would he take a chance? What if the truth was darker than the cold tile beneath their feet, a secret voiding the goodwill of a single act of kindness? The golden hue of the setting sun flickered through the glass door, casting an eerie glow on the moment. Time seemed to stretch, the whole store on edge, and in that brief silence, the future teetered on a knife's edge. With one small gesture, lives could shift like sand dunes. The cashier's heartbeat reverberated in his ears as he clutched the register with white-knuckled hands. He looked her straight in the eye, waiting for his decision to change everything. But could he? What would happen if he chose compassion over judgment? Everyone braced themselves, a collective gasp building within them, hearts racing, breaths held tight, as they awaited the moment of truth. The cashier's breath caught in his throat. The weight of the coins in the woman's hand felt heavier than lead. What if he slid that modest gesture of kindness across the counter, setting off a surge of hope? Or what if it transformed into a consequence he couldn't fathom? Sweat trickled down his back as the murmurs among the crowd began to swell again, each word sharp enough to cut through the tension hanging in the air. "Just let her go, man," whispered a voice from the back, tinged with impatience. "Who cares about a few cents?" Yet another lady scoffed, "He could be getting fired for this. Stop wasting your time." He shook his head. Ignoring the crowd's judgment and the heft of his own fears, he locked eyes with the elderly woman. She looked weary, like she had fought countless battles and lost most of them. He couldn't help but think of her as a symbol of resilience, a warrior wearing a fragile armor of age. "Ma'am," he said softly, "you don't have to worry about that. Just take what you need." The room seemed to freeze again, though this time shocked disbelief rippled through the onlookers. They couldn't believe what they had just heard. Gasps filled the space as a few people shook their heads in disapproval. "Are you serious?" one customer exclaimed, disbelief woven into her tone. "What's next? Letting every homeless person shop for free?" The accusatory tone cut through the fragile moment, layering doubt across the young man's mind. "Everyone deserves kindness," he retorted, the fire of conviction igniting in his chest. He fought back the rumbling doubts trying to twist his insides. As the elderly woman's hands stilled, her eyes filled with tears, deep wells of gratitude and pain swirling together. She nodded, but couldn't find her words. A tiny smile broke through her trembling lips, warming the cold atmosphere. She whispered a thank you, barely audible above the simmering tension, but then, a voice from the crowd escalated. "You're making a huge mistake," a man yelled, waving his hands dismissively. "You'll regret this." The words hung heavy, saturating the air with anxiety. Fear seeped back in, and for a fleeting heartbeat, doubt flickered across the cashier's face. What if he had made a decision that would lead to chaos? What if this act of kindness would upend every supposed rule he had lived by? Then he remembered the light in her eyes, the hope that flickered like a candle against the dimness of despair. It reignited his resolve. He pressed the button to finalize the transaction, the register opening with a harmonious chime. But just as the woman turned to leave, a loud crash erupted from the back of the store. A cart toppled over, cans scattering across the floor like chaotic marbles. Panic erupted as shouts filled the air. Everyone turned their attention away from the cashier and the elderly woman to the commotion. In that moment of distraction, he noticed her slip something into her pocket. Was it his imagination, or was it something more than just gratitude? Curiosity mixed with dread. What had she just concealed from view? As the chaos continued, his heart raced. The peaceful moment was shattered, and he couldn't shake the ominous feeling that whatever this was, it wasn't over. What had really happened here? The bell above the door jangled again. Another figure entered, and the atmosphere shifted once more. The fresh arrival cut through the pandemonium like a knife. A tall figure cloaked in a dark hoodie strode in, the hood pulled low over his eyes, casting shadows down his face. Tension crackled again, tightening the air. Whispers fluttered through the store, thrumming with a mix of excitement and fear. The cashier's instincts screamed at him. There was something about the newcomer and energy that felt charged, dangerous. Just as he was about to step forward, the figure lifted his head, revealing a sharp jawline and piercing eyes that glinted with something unsettling. "Everyone just calm down." The stranger's voice thundered, slicing through the din. Silence swept through the crowd, hearts thumping like drums in their chests. "What do you want?" a voice called from the back, shaky and unsure. The stranger didn't answer immediately. Instead, he scanned the room, his attention landing on the elderly woman, still frozen at the cashier's counter, uncertainty swirling around her like a thick fog. "What are you hiding?" he demanded, and the crowd shifted, tension steeping into the already heavy atmosphere. The cashier felt his pulse quicken, realizing it wasn't just the woman's gesture of kindness that had sparked something. It was this new player entering the game. Fear spread like wildfire. The elderly woman's fingers trembled as she instinctively clutched her coat. The customers were watching her, their eyes flicking back and forth between her and the stranger. "Please," she said, her voice quaking, "I didn't mean to what? You think what you took is just some trinket?" The stranger stepped closer, his demeanor shifting from threatening to predatory. "You've got something more valuable than you realize." "What's in your pocket?" Gasps erupted from the crowd with each word, as people leaned in, straining to catch every moment. The cashier's gaze darted back and forth, feeling as if he were caught between a storm and a calm. "I didn't take anything." The woman protested, but her voice was weak, unraveling under pressure. "Liar!" he barked, stepping nearer. "You better hand it over before things get ugly." "Stop!" the cashier shouted, adrenaline pumping as he placed himself between the woman and the stranger. "This has nothing to do with her. You can't just come in here and threaten people." His voice rang out, but the words quavered slightly. "I can do whatever I want, kid." The stranger's eyes narrowed, fixating on the cashier as if calculating his next move. "Nobody is here to save you." The crowd held its breath, and the cashier felt his blood run cold. Decisions raced in his mind. Did he have the strength to stand firm in the face of intimidation? The elderly woman whispered, "Please, I didn't mean to, I was just trying to help." Her eyes flickered to the cashier, full of fear and sadness. Then, the impossible happened. The stranger smirked, a chilling smile that didn't reach his eyes, and suddenly, he lunged forward. Chaos erupted. Shouts, gasps, and crashing noises mingled into one overwhelming cacophony as the cashier, propelled by instinct, lunged after him. The bell above the door jangled again, drowning out the chaos. A new figure entered, and before anyone could process it, everything changed. Who was this person? Did they bring salvation or another round of chaos? The store swirled in uncertainty, and one question lurked: what would happen next? The store door swung open with a creak, and all eyes turned. A young woman burst in, her dark hair flying as she stepped into the fray, determination set on her features. She glanced around, taking in the scene, the tension, the fear, the elderly woman trapped behind the counter. The newcomer's pulse raced, but she wouldn't be intimidated. "Get away from her!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos like a siren. The stranger paused, his focus shifting from his intended prey to this new obstacle. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, but it vanished quickly, replaced by a facade of cold menace. "And who are you?" he spat, pointing a clenching fist at her direction. The cashier, heart hammering in his chest, stepped back, granting the woman a moment of strength. "She's right," he said, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Just leave her alone. You don't have to do this. Brave little man, aren't you?" The stranger taunted, his voice dripping with derision. "But you don't understand the game we're playing here." An uneasy silence hung between them, gave way to the din of whispers from onlookers, now more captivated than ever. The woman pressed on, her voice steady and strong. "Whatever you think you're doing, this isn't the way. She's just trying to help. You can't intimidate people into giving you what you want." The stranger's eyes hardened, hard like steel, his expression revealing a glimpse of the storm within. "Help? Is that what you think this is? She has something of mine, and I'm taking it back." Fear laced through the crowd again as the elderly woman's fingers nervously brushed her pocket. The cashier felt a knot of dread forming in his stomach. "Wait," the cashier interjected, trying to buy time. "What are you looking for? Maybe we can help. Just don't hurt anyone." The intensity in the stranger's glare turned cold, assessing the two standing against him. Why was this woman so willing to jump into the abyss? Did she even understand the danger? He stepped back, a calculated move. "You three are all the same," he sneered. "Thinking you can play the hero." In that frozen moment, the elderly woman's voice broke through, "I don't have anything. Please believe me. I just wanted to share the little I had left." Tears pooled in her eyes, pooling like forgotten memories. The stranger's face flickered between irritation and something more. Was that a hint of regret? He surveyed the room, the crowd now shrinking away, a wave of sympathy crashing against his facade. The air turned thick with unspoken words and a tension that crackled like lightning. "Just tell me what you want. This can end, right now." The young woman stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest, extending an olive branch where knives had been drawn. But before he could respond, the bell jangled again. A third figure walked in, eyes blazing with authority. The newcomer was tall, broad-shouldered, almost regal in demeanor. This was different. The crowd collectively gasped, as uncertainty seeped deeper into the atmosphere. Who was this person? Had they come to rescue them or to escalate the chaos further? The stranger's smirk faded into something more serious, tension mounting like a tightly wound spring. But just then, he flicked his gaze back to the elderly woman. What would he do next? In a heartbeat, the answer hung between them, thickening the air, drawing every breath into a pause filled with dread. The brink of something big was right there, yet uncertainty loomed like a shadow. The clock was ticking. What decisions would be made when everything came crashing to the surface? Would it lead to peace or destruction? And in that silence, one burning question lingered: what had the elderly woman kept hidden, and would the truth set them free or plunge them deeper into despair? The newcomer stepped forward, a palpable energy radiating from him that cut through the noise like a knife. The tension in the room twisted tighter, every gaze drawn to the man whose presence commanded immediate respect. He stood tall, shoulders squared, eyes scanning the scene with a ferocity that promised protection or chaos. "Step away from her," he ordered, his voice low and steady like rolling thunder. The stranger's demeanor shifted instantly, surprise flickering across his face before it hardened back to defiance. "Who the hell are you?" The intruder barked, a flash of anger igniting in his eyes. "You think you can just walk in here and dictate terms?" A small gasp came from the elderly woman, her hands trembling as they clutched the counter. The cashier felt the weight of her fear, the uncertainty that settled like dust in the air. "Please, don't escalate this," he whispered, heart racing as he shared a glance with the new arrival. Would this man be their savior, or would his presence make things worse? The tall man took a step closer, narrowing the space between them. "I'm not leaving without her," he said, glance flickering to the elderly woman, whose skin was pale and frail. "And neither are you." Each word dripped with determination, igniting the hope buried deep inside the cashier's chest. Could this be their chance? Could this man really turn the tides? The stranger snorted, his bravado cracking under the weight of the tension. "You think you can scare me? I've faced worse than you," he yelled, fists clenching, ready for confrontation. The crowd held its breath, every eye was now glued to the center, uncertainty flooding their thoughts. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the store. A shelf had fallen, bags and products crashing to the ground. Everyone jumped, startled by the disturbance. The old woman pressed back, eyes wide with horror as the chaos unveiled further fragility in their situation. "Enough!" the newcomer shouted, voice booming like fire in a drought. "We're not monsters. We're people." A palpable crackle filled the room. The stranger's eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, the tension waned as they recognized the shared humanity tangled within their desperation. The young woman felt it too, her heart beat faster, aching with a mixture of fear and hope. "Let's talk this through," she suggested, stepping forward with a mix of courage and trepidation. "No one needs to get hurt. Just, tell us what you want." The stranger's expression wavered, disarming tension. "What do you think any of you can offer?" He brushed his fingers through his disheveled hair, voice dropping to a husky whisper. "You don't understand. I don't have a choice." A silence fell like a curtain, thick and heavy as everyone held their breath, reliving the silence before the storm. Slowly, the elderly woman's hand slipped into her pocket, trembling fingers pulling something out. "No. You don't have to." The woman yelled, but it was too late. The elderly woman clutched a small, worn-out piece of paper, holding it up for all to see. This is what you're looking for, isn't it?" she stammered, voice shaking. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The tension shifted again, a new thread woven into this fabric of chaos. What had she hidden away? The stranger's eyes darkened, a wave of fear flashing across his face. "That's not," he began to say, but something deeper flickered behind his eyes, a hint of desperation mingled with dread. The crowd's murmurs swelled, speculation threading through the store like wildfire. What lay behind that faded paper? Just when it seemed answers were within reach, the power flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. The only thing that remained was the sound of breath, sharp and urgent, leaving everyone suspended in dread until, at last, a cold voice echoed through the gloom, chilling their bones. "I guess we're about to find out just how much courage you all really have." What would happen next in the shadows? Would secrets tear them apart or pull them together? The darkness enveloped them, a heavy blanket that silenced even the whisper of air. The only sound left was the ragged breathing and the quickened pulse of those gathered. The newcomer's voice, now distant, cut through the tension. "Stay close to each other," he called, his tone urgent yet steady, anchoring them. Fumbling for control, the cashier felt fear crawl up his spine. "What do we do now?" he whispered, his heart pounding like a war drum in the silence. Sudden footsteps echoed against the tile floor, sharp and deliberate. They could all hear the looters thrashing through the aisles, the sound of crumpling packaging like a ticking clock in the thick dark. The group instinctively huddled closer together, their breaths mingling in a shared anxiety. "What are they looking for?" someone asked, barely above a whisper, their voice trembling. The young woman felt her gut twist as she considered the possibilities. "Maybe it's the old woman," she murmured, glancing back at her. In that moment, the fading streetlight outside the store shimmered like a ghost, casting vague shadows across their faces. Then they heard it metal scraping against metal, the telltale slide of a drawer opening somewhere behind them. The tall man clenched his fists. "No one move. We don't want to draw attention," he warned, eyes darting around for signs of the intruders. A chilling laugh filled the air, rough and mocking, breaking the tension like glass. "Look at you, all scared and huddled," a voice sneered from the shadows, thick with menace. "You really think you can hide in the dark?" The elderly woman whimpered softly. "Please, don't hurt us," she pleaded, her voice edged with panic. The newcomer stepped forward into the shadows, dim light outlining his tall frame. "Enough!" he roared. "You want to fight? Let us do this." Another crash rang out, sending a jolt through the gathered crowd. The young woman's throat tightened with fear. She looked to the cashier, whose eyes were wide, full of unasked questions. They had come so close to unraveling a mystery, only for it to slip away in darkness. Suddenly, a sliver of light sliced through the chaos as a door swung open. The figures of several looters stumbled into view, eyes wild, bodies tense. The tension thickened, suffocating their room like smoke. "What do you have for us, old lady?" one of them sneered, pointing a finger like a loaded gun. "You think we're just going to let you walk away?" The newcomer surged forward, heart racing and adrenaline spiking. "Back off!" he shouted, his voice echoing off the walls like a call to arms. The crowd quaked with fear, but the elderly woman, clutching that crumpled paper tightly, took a step forward. "Wait," she said, voice trembling yet resolute. "You want this?" Gasps erupted, shock evident in every glance exchanged. It occurred to everyone that this ragged piece of paper held the key to something bigger than they ever realized. A deep silence fell, and in it, the newcomer felt a surge of hope mingled with doubt. He turned to the elderly woman, desperation flaring in his eyes. "What is on that paper?" But before she could respond, the lights flickered back on, bright and invasive, revealing all the chaos they'd been hiding from. The room buzzed with murmurs and suspense, as their eyes adjusted. Beneath the flickering fluorescent lights, they saw more than they had hoped for. It was a brisk face-off now, a battle of wills unfolding in the open. The looters shifted, uncertainty flickering in their eyes as they assessed their odds. The newcomer caught a glimpse of the paper in the elderly woman's grasp, and in that moment, everything seemed to hinge on a single truth: what they stumbled upon could change everything. Their choices lay bare, precariously balanced on the edge of desperation and courage. Who would take the leap into the unknown? The tension hung thick in the air, and each person grappled with the enormity of their next action, unsure if they were about to step into salvation or plunge further into the abyss. What was written on that paper that made everyone so fearful? Would it unite them or tear them to shreds? The lights blazed painfully bright, illuminating shocked faces, the realization sinking in deeper than fear. The elderly woman's hand trembled, paper crumpling as her grip tightened instinctively. The looters paused, caught off guard like deer in headlights, their confidence flickering under the harsh light. "What is on that paper?" one of them hissed, eyes narrowing as they leaned closer, circling her like predators. The newcomer stepped forward, ready to defend, muscles coiled tight. "This isn't a game," he said, voice low, like gravel grinding underfoot. "Whatever you think you want, you don't know what's at stake here. The tension in the air was suffocating, pulse quickening in the hearts of everyone present. The group, once cowering in shadows, now stood on the precipice of revelation, every instinct screaming to flee or fight. You think we care? Another looter spat, brandishing a crowbar like a weapon of choice. That paper means nothing to us. Hand it over, old woman, or else. The threat lingered, thick and menacing, weaving through the hearts of those who had pushed themselves deeper into the corner of the store. The elderly woman's voice quivered, but didn't he break? It could save us. It tells the truth about shut up. A looter interrupted, stepping closer, eyes blazing with rage. Truth? You think we're interested in truth? We want what's ours. Murmurs erupted from the onlookers, the chaos rising like a tide. A desperate sweep of despair clawed at the newcomer, adrenaline pulsing through his veins. Stop! He shouted, urgency tightening the words as he moved to shield the elderly woman. You don't have to do this. For a brief moment, everything hung in uncertainty, a delicate moment suspended in air, laden with the weight of fear and the crumpled paper that could spell freedom or doom. Then, to their horror, they heard the scrawl of a pen on paper, the looter's smug grin as he snatched a nearby notebook from the floor. What's on that paper? You're gonna write down how much you owe me. Maybe I'll let you leave with a little mercy. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. The thoughts swirling in their minds were vivid. This wasn't just about greed anymore. It had morphed into a twisted game, power grappling against fear. Please don't, the elderly woman whispered, tears welling in her eyes, the deep lines of her age and struggle colored by vulnerability. The paper felt like a lifeline, heavy with significance. Just then, the window shattered, glass cascading like rain. Outside, distant sirens screeched, startling everyone into a panicked frenzy. This was it, the world of chaos they thought themselves safe from was rushing in. Cops! Shouted a looter, panic slicing through their bravado. It shifted everything, urgency morphing into terror. Enough! The newcomer commanded, stepping closer to the looters, desperate to be the barrier. We need to stick together. We can't let fear control us. Let go of her. One of the looters shouted in response. They seemed less sure now, glancing nervously at the fraying edges of their plan. In that heartbeat, the elderly woman grasped the paper tightly, raising it up. If you want this, you have to earn it, she declared, courage swelling within her, cracks in her frailty vanishing like mist. Each eye locked onto the paper, the gravity of the moment crashing down. What truth lay in those inked lines? Would her resolve ignite a flame in the others, or was it just wishful thinking against the tidal wave of chaos? And then, before the newcomers could react, one of the looters lunged forward, aiming to snatch the paper from her grasp. Run! The newcomer yelled, eyes wide with panic, his heart racing. But would they make it out alive? Or would the truth buried within that paper lead them all to their doom? As the tension coiled tighter, the ultimate test approached, a fight for survival that could change everything. What would they choose? The looter lunged, his arm reaching out like a snake, but the newcomer reacted faster, shoving the old woman behind him. Time seemed to stretch, every second loaded with potential disasters. The crack of glass still echoed outside, creating a symphony of chaos that filled the air with dread. Get back! He barked, adrenaline igniting his senses. The other looters hesitated, uncertain now, the cracked facade of confidence crumbling. The newcomer felt the weight of the moment. Could he really protect her? Amid the turmoil, the elderly woman clutched the paper closer to her chest, as if it contained the answers to all their suffering. Please, you don't understand. This will help us fight back. A tremor in her voice trembled with conviction. Help you fight back. A different looter, tall and lean with a hawk-like gaze, laughed derisively. You think there's anything left worth fighting for? Spittle specked as he spoke, a jagged edge of desperation mingling with cruelty. Stop! Shouted the newcomer, his fists clenching at his sides, ready to swing if necessary. If you want the paper, you'll have to tear it from her. But I warn you, you won't like what it says. The looters shifted, a moment of doubt crawling into their expressions. The newcomer sensed their hesitation, a small crack in their violent facade. He pressed on, voice steady, even as his heart threatened to escape his chest. "Don't you see? The cops are coming. You want to be caught here fighting over some old paper? Or do you want to think bigger? Bigger? You think we trust you?" A looter brandished the crowbar, pointing it toward him, a line drawn in the sand. "Trust is a luxury we can't afford right now. But survival? That's what we need. And that paper, it can guide us out of this mess." The word struck a chord, awakening instinctive survival instincts buried beneath layers of bravado and fear. They shifted their focus from the elderly woman, glancing nervously at one another, questions surfacing. "What's on that paper anyway?" One muttered, wariness edging the question. The hold on the moment hung precariously, the throaty growl of the sirens creeping closer, punctuating the air with dread. "It's a roadmap," she said suddenly, her voice blossoming with a newfound strength. "A plan to expose the truth about everything that got us here. It reveals the corruption and misdeeds that left us vulnerable, left us in the dark." Several of the looters exchanged wary glances, their power-wielding attitudes faltering as they processed her words. Could that crumpled old document really hold the key? Lies don't hold worth. One of them spat, anger flaring again. But he didn't reach for the woman. The newcomer seized the opportunity, stepping forward, voice low but urgent. "What if it's the last chance to end this madness? Together, we can take back our lives." Fear twisted inside the group, reality rippling through the air like a live wire. Just then, the elderly woman took a step forward and raised the paper slowly, holding it aloft, as if offering it to the universe. "But are you willing to earn it?" The silence that followed was thick enough to slice. Outside, the sirens closed in, blaring warnings, a cacophony of urgency that echoed the heartbeat of dread within. In that charged moment, an unexpected sound erupted from beyond the chaos, a loud bang. The sirens faded momentarily, a frantic shout slicing through the air, and everything shifted swiftly to a new scene of fear. A fragmented glimpse of the street. Had someone been shot? Turned their world upside down and shifted focus. "Go check it out!" One of the looters yelled in panic, stepping backward. The looming shadow of authority now loomed like a vengeful ghost. In a flash, the dynamic cracked again, the looter's bravado fracturing into wild self-preservation. "Don't leave. We need to stay together," the newcomer yelled in desperation. But would they see reason? As whispers intermingled with shouts, tension spiraled higher, the old woman still clutching her truth while chaos gripped the others. Would fear pull them apart or push them toward the truth? At that pivotal moment, one looter turned, determination sparking in his eyes. "Let us see what that paper's worth," and just as he moved toward her, the world outside erupted in a chorus of gunfire. What would happen next, the truth or a total collapse? The chaotic dance between survival and revelation was about to reach a fever pitch. The gunfire thundered, echoing down the empty streets like a deranged heartbeat. Panic erupted among the looters, their bravado transformed into raw instinct. The tall one with the crowbar swerved, his eyes wide with terror. What the hell was that? The newcomer's pulse raced. He took a step toward the group, fingers twitching, desperate to keep control. "We've got to move. Now. Expect the cops to flood in any minute. If they didn't act fast, they'd become just another statistic in the chaos." "Shut up. Can't you see we're already in deep?" Another looter shouted, his voice trembling. Fear clawed at the edges of his composure. The shadows cast from the flickering streetlights danced wildly as they shifted, igniting fears that were once buried deep. "Listen to me," the newcomer urged. "That paper could change everything if we get out alive." "We need change what?" One looter spat, sweat beading on his brow. "More lies. More uncertainty. You aren't any better than the people that put us here." "Maybe not, but I'm trying to help." The elderly woman, still firm in her resolve, stepped boldly between them, raising the paper like it was the last ember of hope. This isn't just paper. It's our story. It's our chance to take back what they have stolen. Her voice wavered but held a spark of something determination. Perhaps, the sirens wailed louder now, a growing chorus descending upon them, tightening like a noose. I don't care about some old story, yelled the looter with the crowbar, stepping forward but unsure. I want to survive. Then listen. The newcomer insisted. If we don't band together, we won't be alive to tell any stories. But the looters were restless. Their fear morphed into suspicion, glances darting toward the window where shadows moved suspiciously, illuminated by sporadic flashes of blue and red lights. Suddenly, another looter bolted for the door, spurred by instinct. I'm out. I'm not getting caught for this. The feeling was infectious. Panic turned into a stampede as cries echoed, fear igniting their self-preservation instincts. Wait. Get back. The newcomer shouted, reaching out as bodies surged past, with chaos enveloping them. The old woman took a deep breath. Please. She yelled, her voice cutting through the noise. If you trust in this truth, you may just find your way out of here. But would they listen? Frantic murmurs laced the air. Fear wrestled against curiosity, each looter inching closer to escape, yet the paper still hovered in the air, an invitation, a challenge. Just as he feared the moment slipping away, the tall looter turned abruptly, making eye contact with the newcomer. A flicker of doubt crossed his expression, wrestling emotions that festered under the surface. Why should we trust you? You have nothing left to lose, the newcomer stated, voice tight with urgency. Imagine that the lies have kept us all shackled. With that paper, we can expose them. That's your way out. A tense moment stretched as seconds raced by. The sirens were almost deafening now, and each heartbeat felt heavier, almost sinister. Then, the tall looter let out a mirthless laugh. You think any of us will stand and fight? What's in it for us? Outside, the sound of approaching boots echoed. The moment felt suspended. If they decided to run, would they even make it out? But deep within, sparks fluttered persistence, fleeting glimpses of camaraderie, old anger coiling against new resolve. In their shared hesitation, possibility ignited. Are you with me? The newcomer asked, scanning their faces. Are you ready to take back what's yours? As they contemplated his words, a sudden roar of engines blared outside, drowning their thoughts in dread. A flash, a figure, now right against the door. Would they stand together, driven by the power of the paper and newfound hope? Or would chaos once again dictate their fates? In that precarious moment, through the chaos, the truth hung in the balance, and then, a tremendous crash shattered the fragile trust. What lay beyond that door, waiting to come in? The crash reverberated through the store like a clap of thunder, sending everyone jumping and gasping. The door burst open, and police officers flooded in, guns drawn, shouting commands. Get down. Hands where we can see them. The chaos escalated in an instant. The looters shrieked, hearts pounding. The newcomer stepped back, instinctively shielding the elderly woman. The tension in the air became heavy as cold metal glinted under the bright lights. Please, don't shoot, cried one of the looters, eyes wide with terror. But the officers kept moving forward, eyes scanning for threats. Show us your hands. Came the barked order, a stern and unwavering command that drew everyone's focus. The looters glanced at one another, and fear mixed with anger. Would they try to fight their way out? Enough. This is ridiculous. The tall looter shouted, his bravado cracking beneath the weight of reality. You really want to make this worse? In that moment, the elderly woman raised her fragile voice, trembling but resolute. It's not about fighting. It's about the truth. Everyone turned to her. This paper, it's proof of everything they've taken from us. We can end this. For a heartbeat, silence suspended time. The officers hesitated, confusion mirroring the crowd's uncertainty. "Drop the weapon!" an officer shouted, pointing at the discarded crowbar next to the looter's feet. The tension tightened again, breaths held in unison, as the looter hesitated. "What's it worth?" he dared to ask, uncertainty creeping into his defiance. He glanced back at the newcomer, seeking guidance as panic surged. "Are we really going to trust these guys?" Before an answer could form, the elderly woman stepped forward, holding the paper high above her head. "You want proof of the corruption? This is it. We can't stay in the shadows any longer." The officers took a step back, unsure of what to make of the frantic scene unfolding before them. They exchanged looks, realizing the gravity of the moment. "Let us say we believe you," one officer attempted, raising an eyebrow. "What's on that paper?" "It details the crimes. This is bigger than any of us," the woman implored, her hands shaking but her gaze steady. "We can use it to show everyone the truth, to shut down the darkness that has taken over our lives." The newcomer felt a rush of hope, fueled by the unity stirring among them. "This is our chance. It's not just about one moment of kindness anymore. We have to stand together for something greater." The police looked uncertain but held their ground, clearly overwhelmed by the unfolding situation. "Let us see it," one of the officers finally demanded, crossing his arms, glancing nervously at his partner. "Hand it over peacefully, and we'll sort this out." The elderly woman nodded slowly, stepping forward, every ounce of courage gathering inside her as she handed over the paper. "This can change everything," she whispered, her voice cracking. As the officer took it, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The murmured whispers among the crowd swelled again, each heart pounding with the fragility of what was happening. In that critical moment, things began to unfold. With the truth now in play, the looters glanced at one another. Fear still cast long shadows, but so did the flicker of solidarity. The tables were turning. "Let us not waste this," the newcomer urged, scanning the faces around him. "Together, we can make sure our stories are told." Suddenly, urgency filled the air as more officers arrived, sirens blaring outside. But amidst the chaos, an unexpected shift took place. "Please, we just want our voices heard," cried another looter, desperation spilling from their lips. "We're all caught in the same web." The elderly woman ventured to speak again. "It's time to stop fighting each other. It's time to fight against what has taken everything from us." "What now?" the tall looter nervously asked. The officers listened, glancing between the crowd and one another, sensing the collective strength igniting in the air. "If we can verify what you're saying, we can help you," one officer called out, gripping the paper tightly. And just like that, the tide began to turn. The tension in the room started to ease, replaced by a spark of budding hope. "Let us be heard," the newcomer declared, determination flooding through his veins. "No more shadows, and no more hiding." As voices rising in unity surged, an unexpected calm hit. Lives once splintered by fear began to unify under the banner of truth, courage standing taller than any weapon. Hope gives birth to change, and it felt like the air was charged with possibility. Outside, the sirens faded to a dull echo, replaced by the sound of voices rising in a chorus, as the wave of humanity began to take shape. It was no longer just about 89 cents, but about the collective stand against indifference. And as the elderly woman, the cashier, and the new figures of hope stood together, one thing became clear: they were ready to fight, ready to reclaim a story that was finally worth telling. You need to subscribe now for more incredible stories that ignite hope. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Together, let us continue making a difference.